questions? Comments? Recipes for okra? Right there?
Just wondering if you have an idea how many Filipinos died just in the process of trying to become mules or be mules.
Question was if there were many, and how many Filipinos who may have died while being drug mules or started with drug mules.
Actually, right now we don't have any specific scientific data on it. Like there would some non-government or non-profits would have an estimate of the number. But basically, when things like that happen, it gets reported as just another OD, an drug overdose. So it's not really. There's no estimate at this point.
Right there.
In the scene near the beginning of the movie where the sisters were sitting watching something being done to a woman, which you walked out. What?
The question was when the two women go, like they pay to go in and they there's something going on in the back room. What exactly was?
They wanted to pour it, they wouldn't pour it.
Yeah.
What was happening?
That's actually a faith healer. There's a kind of faith healing in the Philippines where they use just the hands to make an operation. Like a major operation that would entail usually a huge hospital with all the the usual process. Some faith healers would just use their hands to get like tumors out of the body of that person. That was it. We shot it with all of the gory details, but during the editing, we decided not to show it anymore.
Right there?
Yeah, what is the government, the new president, doing about this?
Question was?
It's such a sad account of what's happening in the Philippines.
Question was, what is the government, and particularly the new president Aquino, doing about the drug mule trade?
The short answer would be assign the vice president to take care of it, unfortunately.
Is that the solution?
Is right there?
Assuming the delivery was successful, how was the money brought back to the Philippines?
Question was, if they actually did deliver the drugs, how would the money get back to the Philippines?
The mules would usually get it once they arrive in China. Usually it's Macau or Hong Kong. Someone will meet up with them, and then they will give the drugs to that person, and then they will get the money in return, and then they will go back to the Philippines.
Wouldn't they need to hide the money as well?
Generally, no. There are a lot of Filipinos traveling from Macau and Hong Kong back to the Philippines with a lot of money because there are a lot of overseas Filipino workers, migrant workers in Hong Kong and China, so it's kind of not that suspicious.
May I ask another question?
Sure.
Two young boys at the start, what were they hoping to mine out of the dump?
Oh, that particular scene is based on another documentary we did for a local network in the Philippines. It's a new phenomenon in the Philippines. It's called urban mining. They would usually go to old dumps already reclaimed by the government, and it's actually covered with soil already, but then some people would run out of trash, profitable trash, so they would go to these old dumps and then make large holes on the old dumps to get like plastics and metals so they can sell it. The kids are real kids, like from the dump site.
That's not that does happen frequently. There's another Filipino film here at the festival called Fable of the Fish, and the couple that's the focus of the film, they make their living off of urban mining. Right there, lady.
You mentioned that there's a documentary that you've done. I just wondered if you could tell a bit about how you made contact with people involved in this trade initially.
Question was how you made, when you were doing the documentary, how you made contact with people involved in the trade initially.
Actually, that documentary, we got the initial information about it because this was 2 years ago. There's no information yet about drug mules in the Philippines. At the time, we were doing a story about sex trafficking of Filipinas in the region. So we went to different countries like Singapore, Malaysia, and China, specifically Macau and Hong Kong. And we were looking for Filipinas who were trafficked into sex trade in those particular areas. We accidentally met a couple of people in Hong Kong and Macau who were not exactly doing, who were not trafficked, but they were doing something else. And we learned that they were actually drug mules. And they were saying, they were kind of, sort of proud of it, because they thought it was safer compared to becoming sex workers in another country, because they felt that they had more control over it. I don't know. But they were the ones who talked to us about it initially, but they didn't want to be interviewed for that. So what we did when we went back to the Philippines, we did a little bit more research, and then we were able to interview a couple more people who were involved in that particular business.
Right there?
This is the first Filipino movie that I've seen. Is this representational of in theme and so on?
The lady asked if this was it was the first Filipino movie she saw, which is great. Pardon me? Is it representative of Filipino cinema? No, actually, well, sort of. There's a number of different strains in Filipino cinema. There's some of the more established veteran directors are people like Joel Lamangan or Carlos Sagan Reyna, who actually hasn't made a film in a while, and Mel Chionglo, people like that. They often deal with social issues, poverty, miscarriages of justice, etc. I think the last Joel film we showed was a film called Wretched Lives, which dealt with poverty specifically. So they're often quite. There's a style of melodrama that's kind of unique to the Philippines, but they were very focused on social issues. This film has that element, obviously, but it's a bit sort of grittier in a sense. It's less melodramatic and a bit more intimate in terms of the. How it's done. Often Joel and Carlos's films had fairly big stars too. There's a very significant star system in the Philippines, and the industry is dominated by basically 2, maybe 3 studios. 2 of them run totally by individual women. Mother Lily, and I forgot the name of the other lady. Yeah. ABS. Yeah, ABS. Star Cinema. Yeah, Star Cinema. So there's, it's a very interesting kind of structure. Is that?
That's great.
Okay. Did you want to add anything?
Actually, well, it came from, I guess, there was a trend before in the Philippines in the early 2000s that the film industry was really dying. It was brought about by a lot of things. One is the piracy of movies. Films released for a day or 2, you would find them in like the corner store. A pirated copy would be there for a fraction of the money you spend to watch a film. So that kind of triggered the death of the film industry. But then there came about a movement of independent films in the Philippines, tackling not so mainstream issues. Issues that are not usually seen on mainstream films.
And of course, a lot of the stuff is linked back to, I think, the major figure in Filipino cinema, which is Lina Broca, who was was often in hot water with the government at the time. A lot of his stuff was made under Marcos, and his stuff was very socially concerned, very provocative, very political, very strong stuff.
So would the film be seen in the Philippines? Is there an art house market, or would a film like this be available to, non-typical theatrical viewers?
Question is, would the film be seen in the Philippines, and how would it be distributed?
It's actually available in the Philippines. We had a festival in the Philippines for independent films. It was shown there. It went on for about 2 weeks. Out of maybe 10 screenings, the film was sold out, except for just 2 screenings, and it was almost sold out as well. We were also surprised by the turnout, because of the material. It's not exactly, even for Filipino films, it's edgier than most. So we were not expecting for people to actually go out of their way to watch something like this. But yeah, there's a growing market to it, for it, but not exactly enough yet to sustain a longer term business model, I guess, for independent films.
With a lot of the newer films, they're often referred to as the Filipino wave. They also depend a lot on international exposure. Yeah.
We have time for one more.
Okay. Go ahead.
Talk about what's being done to eliminate poverty. I mean, that's really what this is about, isn't it? The root cause is poverty, and people are desperate. So what is being done to eliminate poverty in the Philippines?
That's difficult to answer. I guess I would say that the country is generally headed in the right direction right now. I'm not particularly, personally, I don't agree with a lot of the policies. As a journalist, I don't personally agree with a lot of the policies of the current administration. But at the very least, the corruption is not as rampant as the previous administration's policies, previous administrations. So I guess it's a big improvement, but in terms of macroeconomic policies, there's a lot more to be done to improve the situation of the people so that it would redound to the people on the ground, like the poorest of the poor. Thank you.
And thank you, and thanks for coming. Congratulations.